been a little while since we did one of these. Like, I was expecting there would be more casting announcements. Obviously, we got a lot right after the actor strike ended because then studios were able to make deals with actors and publicize them, things like that. But that's kind of slowed down, which is fine. That's kind of how it usually is. But we do have a bunch of things coming up like Superman Legacy and Fantastic Four that I do expect to see some big casting announcements for in the future. Obviously, there were tons of Fantastic Four rumors that are still existing, I guess, as rumors. And I imagine those will be confirmed before the end of the year. Although I said the same thing about them being confirmed before December, and here we are. But we did get a new piece of Superman Legacy casting that I think is a little interesting. In my James Gunn cast his friends in the new DCU video, I talked about Sean Gunn very briefly. I was like, he'll probably be like some random pirate in Krem's space pirate gang, or some random guy in the Daily Planet bullpen. Well, it turns out he's gonna be someone a little bit more significant than that. Now, he is already playing two roles in this new DCU. One is the role of Weasel that he played in The Suicide Squad. Like, I'd forgotten this until like a second ago because I kind of assumed, like everybody else, he died in The Suicide Squad. But then I remembered there is actually that post-credit scene of Weasel surviving. So, but he's playing Weasel in the Creature Commando show. That character's mostly like grunts and squeals. And also, in the movie, he was doing motion capture for that character. But in the cartoon, I don't imagine he's going to be doing very much motion capture. So like his role here is probably limited, but it's like they wanted to put Weasel in, and Sean Gunn did the role before, so he's going to do it again. The other character he's playing is a character named G.I. Robot. This character, again, in the future, if they bring him into live action, could be motion capture. Could also be like a C-3PO guy in a suit, but he will have a voice. Like, this is a character who will sound like Sean Gunn. Probably through a filter, so he'll have a little bit more robotic sound, and he'll probably try to hide whatever accent he has in the other role so they don't sound exactly the same. But so far, he has two roles in the new DCU. And also, we don't quite know the vibe of Creature Commandos. G.I. Robot and Weasel could both be killed by the end of that first season. But it's like, okay, well now, there's no one there Sean Gunn's playing, so here's a role that we expect him to play in the future. It's not the Suicide Squad exactly, and I assume G.I. Robot could be like rebuilt so his character won't die, but either way, there's no like guarantee. It's not like he's playing like Batman and you're like, oh, that's definitely gonna be in pretty much every movie, and now he's got this role and you're like, what happens when they meet? The G.I. Robot may not survive the first season of Creature Commandos, and that would be fine. That's normal. But Sean Gunn is apparently also playing a character named Maxwell Lord. You probably remember Maxwell Lord from Wonder Woman 1984, a movie that we all forgot existed, where he was played by Pedro Pascal. He was in the 80s. It was kind of like a Donald Trump figure who was very into gold and talking about dreams, and you can achieve your dreams if you read my book and stuff. That was the vibe that they gave him there. That character also appeared on Supergirl, played by Twilight's Peter Facinelli. I watched like some of the first season of Supergirl, so I don't know what they did with him. Although I kind of remember him being described as more of an Elon Musk type than a Donald Trump type. I think both those takes on the character are valid in that he was envisioned originally as more of a Trumpian character, but in the present day, you know, Musk, at least 10 years ago, Musk made a lot more sense. Now I don't even know what the vision of that is. Like, maybe it is the same and it's just like present day Elon Musk, and that's the vision for the character in 2023. I'm not sure, but this casting is interesting. I was not expecting it. In fact, I was not expecting this character to show up at all. Sean Gunn would not have been my first pick, but I think there's something interesting here. And the fact that this character is here says a couple of things. The first part, real quick, Maxwell Lord is famous in the comics for doing three things. First, he assembled the Justice League International, which was the incarnation of the Justice League, which featured characters like Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, Guy Gardner, Martian Manhunter, Batman, Black Canary. Basically, they were a team of second stringers led by Batman, who were the fill-in Justice League after a lot of the big characters left the Justice League. So like, no Superman, no Flash, no Wonder Woman. What's the Justice League now? It's Batman, Martian Manhunter, Dr. Fate, and these other guys. And they all became pretty popular characters. Besides a couple of characters like Gnort, who never really had a big moment. Like Fire and Ice just had a comic that came out. They're very popular. Obviously, Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, everybody loves them. Black Canary is a very important character. I mean, she was important before that, but she is a character that fans have a real affection for. Like Mr. Miracle and Big Barda. I knew I was forgetting somebody. They were on the Justice League International, and now they're big hits. Like Black Canary and Big Barda are in the Birds of Prey series that's currently running. Obviously, Mr. Miracle, one of everyone's favorite comics from the last decade or whenever it came out. These characters were not big deals before Giffen and DeMatteis created this team, and now they're some of the most beloved characters in DC Comics. The roster has expanded too. I'm trying to remember other ones. Like I know Captain Atom was on one version of the team. That Russian guy whose name I can never remember. But either way, so he creates the Justice League International. Time passes, then he does the second most important thing he ever did. Killed Ted Kord, the second Blue Beetle. Just shoots him dead. It was a pretty big moment, and like Ted Kord stayed dead for quite a while. And I talked about this in my Booster Gold video, but it was a big motivating factor for Booster growing and becoming this more mature character. So that was really important. And then he got superpowers, mind-controlled Superman, and forced Wonder Woman to kill him. So that's the third most important thing he's ever done, had his neck snapped by Wonder Woman. Besides that, he comes and goes. I wouldn't say he's like the most important character, but he is a character who matters. Like, this character has done a lot of things, and there's a lot of roles he can play in this universe, which we'll get to. Like I said, he's a billionaire, but whatever that means in the present day, I think it's different from what it was in the mid 80s when he was introduced, and he was more of this Donald Trump figure. And for that reason, I don't have a huge problem with Sean Gunn playing this role. Part of that might have to do with Justice League Immortal, which was going to be a version of the Justice League made by George Miller from like Mad Max. It was going to show up, I think, in like the early 2000s. It had a lot of people that you kind of recognize, like DJ Catrona was going to be Superman, Adam Brody was going to be the Flash, Arnie Hammer is going to be Batman, I think Common was going to be Green Lantern. I don't know, maybe it would have been good. I've read some of the script, it could have worked. But one character who people kind of don't mention as much when talking about Justice League Immortal was Maxwell Lord, who was going to be in this movie, who was going to be played by Jay Baruchel. So that's not Donald Trump, that's not Elon Musk, and this was kind of before Mark Zuckerberg was a thing, although he was coming up at this point, so maybe that's what they were going for. But either way, the vision of what a billionaire in DC Comics looks like changes a lot. That's why I think Sean Gunn could work. I think Sean Gunn is a good actor. I think he's very engaging. I think he has a role that he has been kind of, not necessarily even typecast in, but just like, we know what he does, right? He shows up in Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of a goofball, kind of a weirdo, sincere, lovable. Same thing from Gilmore Girls. When he was Kirk, he was a different weirdo. He was more kind of detached and like strange, but he was also, like everybody in Stars Hollow, like nice and lovable. So I think at a base level, a Sean Gunn Maxwell Lord, I would expect will be a little strange, maybe eccentric, maybe that's what we're doing with the billionaire thing. And we will expect to like him. He'll be a character who we in the public, when we're introduced to him, are supposed to be like, oh, I don't trust some of those other billionaires, but like he seems nice, I guess. And that's how he tricks you and brings you into the JLI and then eventually shoots Ted Kord. Wait, now that I think about it, isn't he also Calendar Man in these? Didn't he play Calendar Man very briefly in that cameo in the Suicide Squad? So he's 4 roles. We're not even, everybody always forgets about that. I forgot about that, but he did do that. So, you know, I mean, I don't think Calendar Man's going to be that important either, but that's just interesting. I guess it's interesting that we will have 2 evil billionaires in the DCU, because that will kind of mean, well, this isn't going to be like Lex Luthor. I would imagine this character exists as a foil for Lex Luthor, right? Like maybe there will be some sort of summit or meeting or something like that, and Lex Luthor will get one over on Maxwell Lord, because we don't know really what role, if any, he's going to play in Superman Legacy. We know he is in the DCU as this character, but we don't really know what he's going to do. And that could be not showing up for another 2 or 3 years. Like his introduction could be in the Booster Gold show, could be in the Supergirl show. We don't know. So like, could Sean Gunn work? Sure. I don't really have a vision for a modern Maxwell Lord, especially because also when you look at the look of this character, he's very like guy. He could be any other kind of like, you know, he has the same body type and the same like face as like Batman. Honestly, it's not that unique. So it's not a character like, let's say, Plastic Man, where you see him and you go like, oh, he's got to look a little tall and lanky and goofy, and like Maxwell Lord could be anybody. And he doesn't need to be super buff or anything. It's probably good to have a couple characters in this movie that are not super buff. So, you know, Sean Gunn can work there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really think we've given Sean Gunn a chance to play a character like this, like play a character who is supposed to be more sinister. So I'm curious to see what this looks like. And it's definitely not the casting decision that I'm like in love with more than anything else. I think that's probably Nicholas Hoult, Lex Luthor. I also think Guy Gardner, Nathan Fillion is a lot of fun. Eddie Gathetti as Mr. Terrific, especially having watched this season of For All Mankind, I think there's something interesting there. Honestly, in that show, he's got an interesting billionaire persona he's built up, and I think maybe that could work as Maxwell Lord. But either way, I think mostly the casting in the new DCU has been good. I think the only one I don't love is Metamorpho, and I'm willing to see it through and see how it goes. But like Sean Gunn, I think it could work. Now, the fun part. So what does Maxwell Lord being cast this early in the new DCU mean? Because he's an important character, but he's not a more important character than, say, Batman, who is yet to be cast. And like I said, what most people know this character from is the Justice League International. maybe having him in this movie means that exists. Like maybe there is a Justice League that has been created by Maxwell Lord, and that's what Mr. Terrific and Hawkgirl and Guy Gardner are doing. Like, I think that could totally work. Or I think the plan could be a Justice League International movie once we build up some of these characters that are going to show up in the different projects, right? Like Booster Gold. Blue Beetle could be in Booster Gold. Those two guys could come over. Then you can take Guy Gardner from Superman Legacy, Batman if you want, although I don't think you need him on a team like this. Then you throw Mr. Miracle, Barda, Fire and Ice in there, and you have a really fun Justice League International lineup. And they can be pretty much the Guardians of the Galaxy of the Justice League. Like these characters are kind of screw ups. You know, they're not as amazing and powerful and smart and honorable as characters like Superman and Wonder Woman, but they still need to fill that void and they have to learn to kind of become a team and make each other better. Like that's what James Gunn does really well. And I believe, I don't have like proof of this, but I'm pretty sure James Gunn likes the JLI. Like it would make sense because he grew up in that era. Like that would be when he was in his like 20s reading comics, and this was a really popular, influential run. So I wouldn't be surprised if when he got the keys to the universe, he said, you know what we're doing first? JLI. We can't obviously start there, but we're going to work our way up to it. So getting Maxwell Lord involved in this universe is very promising. Like that makes me think that this might happen. So overall, big picture stuff, I think Sean Gunn is a good enough actor that I'm curious to see what his take on Maxwell Lord is going to be, especially in a universe where Lex Luthor exists, and especially in the universe where he is currently playing 3 other characters. And by the way, I don't care about the nepotism thing in the sense that like, he has small roles in these movies and shows. Like I said, Weasel's just grunts and stuff. Calendar Man was a little cameo. G.I. Robot might be a bigger role, but who knows? So like, listen, if this was a director I did not like or thought was not good, and they were filling this movie with just friends of theirs and family members, I'd be like, all right, well, that's not an amazing sign. But like, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are consistently the best movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Suicide Squad is probably the best movie that DC has made in the last like 10 years. So I'm willing to give James Gunn some credit. Like maybe you just want to have Sean Gunn on set playing some role in every project because that makes the whole thing better. I guess it really is like, if this was anybody else, maybe I'd be kind of bugged by it. But the fact that it's James Gunn means I just trust these decisions he's making and hope this Superman Legacy in DCU is at that same level of quality as Guardians of the Galaxy, because if it is, we're in for a real treat. So I think Sean Gunn being in this role is good. It's fine. I'm curious. I'm interested. But more importantly, I think Maxwell Lord being a big player in the new DCU says a lot of good things about a potential JLI series, and I'm very excited about that.